You are watching In Your Interest. I'm Krishna Kumar and putting the focus here on the Unified Pension Scheme or UPS. And we're asking the question, what's in it for you, all those of you watching? We have Dr. Srinath Sridharan, policy researcher and corporate advisor, now joining us for that. Before I come to you, let me quickly put it into context as to what we're discussing over here. One is really simple. It is supposed to incorporate the best elements of the OPS, the old pension scheme, and the NPS, or the National Pension Scheme, popularly known as the new pension scheme. It has assured pension, assured minimum pension. There are several factors that have been mentioned. But Dr. Srinath Sridharan, net, for all those who are watching this, is this pension scheme, the new pension scheme, or the UPS, Unified Pension Scheme, be the right kind of UPS for people in their retirement?
Krishna, the question should be, should it also be rolled out to the rest of India, not just the government servants? I think that will be a fair question to ask. The UPS seems to be a far pragmatic one simply because it is funded. There is no open-ended challenge that your worries that at some point in time in the future, will the governments need to fund any shortfall? No, none of those. It is funded every year, but on budget. It's called as on-budget provisioning, which means every year in the union budget, we have to see for a line item which will say what is the amount that is going to fund this. This year, the envisaged, I think, 5,500 crores. On a large budget, it is a very, very small proportion. I want to give a corporate analogy. When we use the word called cost to company in the corporate India, we talk about salary, we talk about basic pay, we talk about HRA, we also speak about the contribution to PF and gratuity. Very similarly is this UPS, that everything is factored into the government's contribution as well as employees' contribution. So in that sense, it's a good one. And now the challenge is going to be how will PFRDA, for example, the regulator, the pension regulator, make NPS attractive enough for rest of us as citizens for us to use that. That's going to be the larger challenge. And I think there is no answers at this point in time because we don't have innovative product schemes so far.
Right. The fact that you have this pension scheme now, because there has been a fair amount of criticism about the new pension scheme or the national pension scheme. But the question here is that going forward, how do you see the adoption or the move to the UPS?
See, I don't think there's a problem, but one of the challenge politically is everybody will question, is it because of the state elections coming up? Looks like it because this is the first time, if you notice, they've actually rolled back something that the first BJP Prime Minister, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee's pension scheme, the reforms that were done, that has been rolled back kind of sorts. That's one. Two, the UPS is again an amalgamation of various schemes. It is not a fresh one. If you remember, this government had criticized the opposition parties for bringing in OPS in various forms. And this is again, the question is it a old wine in a new bottle of sorts? The challenge is yes, the answer seems to be yes. It is, in our Zoom parlance, a hybrid pension scheme, but it's a good pension scheme. So that is a good sign. It is funded, there is no shortfall, there is no gap. But the challenge is going to be if your company's size, which means the number of employees that the government will have on its payroll as the years roll by, is it going to increase the annual outgo of pensions and the contribution of the government of India? That is the question. And more importantly, what happens if, let's say, almost all the other states adopt the same method of they roll out UPS in their states? What is going to be the cost to their exchequer? That will be another question that we need to watch out for. At this point in time, too limited data on the states. If all of them adopt, I think it will be an interesting one to see.
Well, if all of them adopt, it will be an interesting one. But this pension scheme, in the sense, the two things that stood out for me at least was the fact that there's going to be inflation indexation. There's going to be the dearness relief as well. Those are crucial factors that are going for it, isn't it?
It is. But the challenge is going to be you're almost promising 50% of the last drawn salary. That's a big one. And what happens if, let's say, the returns, when I say returns, I'm talking about various asset investments, stock markets slow down or debt schemes slow down. At those points, who is going to fund those shortfall? And I think that's an open-ended question as we speak at this point in time. There are no answers at all.
Again, for those watching, I'm asking on behalf of all those people watching, people who have put money into the national pension scheme. What should they do now?
Krishna, I think the jury is out, right? I mean, can we move, all of us moved from NPS to UPS? And I want to draw the Tamil Nadu analogy, right? I mean, if you remember the different politicians with EPS, OPS, and all of that, it seems to be a rerun of those, but for a pension scheme today. I think my suggestion would be, I think there is no one size fits all. I think if you have to think like a financial planner, you would have to look at your own risk capability and the age, because UPS is defined by the number of years of services and the contribution that will happen. So what is applicable for different people will vary with outcomes. So there is no one size fits all. And also the taxability angle is also very, very different.
Okay, so net, what are you telling us? Should we stop?
I think very simple. UPS is a better scheme than OPS because it is funded. That is very, very important aspect. You're not leaving anything open to chance or to next year or later fiscal gaps. Two, I think very, very simple. You know what is the government contributing and what the employees are contributing. So there is skin in the game for the employees as well. Three, I'm saying that look at this not as government's freebie to the government servants, public servants. Look at it as cost to company that the government of India is going to pay for the compensation package. So if the corporate India can say CTC, why can't government also say CTC? I mean, that's how I would defend this as a great idea that UPS is a good one. Look at it as CTC, don't look at it as free dolouts.
It is an interesting time that we're living in. Everybody is figuring out how to deal with the rising living costs, planning for retirement. There are no simple answers to it, isn't it, really? Because at the end of the day, if inflation continues to grow at the rate at which it has been for the last decade or so, it's going to be whatever you think is going to be your nest egg or whatever you think is going to be your corpus that you can retire with is going to be extremely difficult to assess.
Krishna, very, very valid. And I just want to draw on one of the large demographic risks that we will have in years to come, right? I mean, today we enjoy the benefit, or we've been enjoying the benefit of the young demographics or demographic dividend, as we call it. But beyond 2040, our aging population is going to start increasing. So who's going to pay for, we don't really have a social security net or a healthcare net, right? I mean, who's going to pay for what I call as services inflation? Food, healthcare, and the cost to take care of yourself, which means whether you have the middle class and upward having a driver or a domestic help or whatever. And those inflation rates are in 2 digits. They're not in 6% or 5% at all annually. So how are you going to fund that as you grow older? And humans, all of us are living longer as well. The average Indian age today, anecdotally, is about 80. So which means that if you retire at 60, if you're a government employee, and in the private sector, you're also at the risk of being forced to retire much more earlier because you're outskilled. You don't have the relevant skill. So how do you make that money work for the subsequent 40 years or 30 years of your life? And I think that's a larger challenge, which I hope our pension regulator kind of puts out a vision document saying that how do they see this pan out? Today, if you ask anybody, is this money, say if you have 4 crores, I mean, there are a lot of these floating around, right? If you retire with 4 crores at 6% interest rate and all that. But we're not adjusting for inflation, we're not adjusting for income tax, and we're not adjusting for all the taxes we pay, the GST and works. So what is that relevant money for you? There are no answers. I think a pension scheme should also address all of that holistically rather than look at just Excel sheet.
Right. We need to find holistic answers to retirement. Dr. Srinath Sridharan, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here. And with that, we've completely run out of time here on this edition of In Your Interest. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.